Larian Studios has completely proved BioWare wrong with their superior methods of making games, by using this one trick that no other game devs have ever heard of. What is this secret method, you might ask? Well, it's something we rarely see in games today, with microtransactions running rampant and games feeling more like a get-rich-quick scheme than an actual product. Larian decided to do something different than other developers. But before we get into that, first, do you remember BioWare? You know, that little old game developer based in the mythical land of Canada? For those who don't know, back in the day, they were the undisputed kings of RPGs, responsible for industry-moving titles like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Mass Effect, and let's not forget the amazing Dragon Age series. Well, the series isn't really all that amazing per se, it's more like the amazing Dragon Age Origins, because any other Dragon Age game kinda sucks massive ding-dong. Now, I don't say this out of spite for BioWare, it's just a matter of fact. Play Dragon Age Origins, and then afterwards play Dragon Age Inquisition. It's like night and day, people. It's not even close. BioWare has slowly gone down the shitter from 2010 and onward by changing their games to be more appealing to a mass audience and alienating their core fan base. On the other hand, Larian Studios has done the complete opposite by improving their niche with each iteration, resulting in not only unwavering support from their core audience, but also mass exposure from an audience outside. As of recently, BioWare is also downsizing their team and shit-canning a lot of their employees. So yeah, the way that BioWare is going, it might just be over for them, if they don't learn from their mistakes. And I'm not wishing on their downfall and hoping to piss on their graves anytime soon. Although, that would be nice because of this shitty fucking launcher I'm forced to download every time I want to play one of their fucking games that I bought. Honestly, I'm just really salty and disappointed. I grew up playing these amazing RPGs, and to see them devolve into this?
Nigga what? Nigga what? Nigga what?
Is heartbreaking. And these feelings have only been amplified after seeing the success of Larian Studios in Baldur's Gate 3. It just makes me feel like that BioWare could have definitely gone down the path of Larian if they weren't so goddamn greedy. They used to push out nothing but hits, but nowadays, these guys never fail to disappoint. I just hope they take some notes from Larian for their upcoming game Dragon Age Dreadwolf. If that ever comes out, that is. But enough on the intro. You're probably wondering how BioWare fucked up. BioWare first got its start in 1996 with the mech game Shattered Steel, which sold a whopping 170,000 units by 2002. That's exceptionally good for a brand new up-and-coming developer. But they didn't stop there. 2 years later, they acquired the rights to D&D and released the best CRPG ever made, Baldur's Gate 1. With all the success, they snowballed and kept releasing hits after hits after hits, with the occasional odd one out, but it was mostly hits. Baldur's Gate 2, 2 million units sold. Neverwinter Nights, 1 million units sold. Knights of the Old Republic, 3 million. Mass Effect 1, 2 million, and it keeps going on and on. From 1998 to 2010, BioWare were the deities of role-playing games. No Western dev was even close to outputting as many solid, high-quality RPGs like BioWare. But of course, this wasn't enough for them. They wanted to expand. They wanted more money, more investors, more employees, and on top of that, more revenue. So, how did they go about this? Well, instead of dominating their niche by improving the type of game that their core fan base already loved, like some other successful devs, they chose to alienate their core fan base by making games more appealing to a wider audience, or as I like to call it, normified. They took their titles, which were known for their RPG elements, and normified them to appeal to the largest audience, which at the time was the console Call of Duty FPS gamers and the Bethesda boys. You know what kind of games they wanted. You have to admit, the popularity of these two genres really skewed the gaming industry in the wrong direction for a little bit, with promising devs trying their hardest to follow them. Anyways, back to BioWare. BioWare catered to this crowd with the release of Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition. With Mass Effect 2, they decided to gut a lot of the RPG elements. With Dragon Age Inquisition, they decided to do a vast open world instead of tight, neatly packed levels. And that's not all they changed. Did you want decent loading times while playing Mass Effect 2 on PC? Well, that might make the console players feel inferior. So let's artificially make the loading screens longer on PC, so the console boys don't get upset. They also eliminated most of the RPG elements that were in Mass Effect 1. Some good, a lot bad. But still, the XP system was completely butchered in Mass Effect 2, with you getting a dedicated amount of XP after each quest, which felt completely pointless. But I'm not here to tell you how good Mass Effect 1 is, and how completely inferior and not even close to as good as Mass Effect 1 that Mass Effect 2 is. What I'm trying to say here is that Mass Effect 2 was the point where BioWare stopped caring about their loyal audience and decided to change some things up a bit. And guess what? It worked. For a bit at least. With Mass Effect 2 selling a whopping 5 million copies and being critically acclaimed on top of that. But you know what they say, the brightest stars always burn out the fastest, and that's exactly how they went. After testing the waters with Mass Effect 2 and other games, They decided to go all out with catering to the masses. They spent more time on normalizing their games instead of making them better, which made games more popular, but there was a noticeable drop in quality, content, and refinement. And this is shown in the review scores. Dragon Age is a perfect example. In my opinion, Dragon Age Origins was a perfect CRPG. Well, not perfect, but it was definitely pretty fucking amazing. It had awesome characters, choices that mattered, and tons of beautiful D&D inspired gameplay, which resulted in a noticeable difference when it comes to Steam scores. Despite having better graphics and better animations, it's clear that the two Dragon Age games have a disparity when it comes to overall enjoyment, with Origins clearly in the lead, and there's a reason for that. Origins, despite its issues, had a D&D inspired CRPG system and amazing quests that old BioWare fans absolutely adored. This was completely ditched for an action RPG system with boring quests. ARPGs can be fun if done right, and I love my fair share of ARPGs, don't get me wrong. But why? Why would you ever change this so drastically, completely abandoning your CRPG roots? Clearly they thought that CRPGs weren't the best for maximizing profits. Let's talk about Lorien now, who has recently become my favorite gaming studio. Lorien has been releasing games for a while now, and they first started making CRPGs around the time BioWare pulled out, with the first one being Divinity Original Sin. Now at first it wasn't anything perfect, but with each iteration they've gotten better and better and improved on their mistakes. They stuck with the genre that BioWare completely abandoned, and instead of ditching it when the meta changed, they decided to master it, and because of that, their most recent game Baldur's Gate 3 has done extraordinarily well. It did so good in fact, that it surpassed the expectations of Swen, the founder and CEO of Lorien Studios. On August 4th, Swen expressed in a tweet that 100,000 concurrent players would be the max for Baldur's Gate 3, while showing a screen cap of the Steam charts showing 500,000 concurrent players. But the real max was 875,343 concurrents. This is what happens when you refine a niche instead of completely abandoning it to appeal to a wider audience. You create something new and industry leading, setting a new standard for RPGs throughout the entire gaming industry. Lorien took action and decided to set the standard instead of being a slave to it. These two companies employ two completely different ideals. One is intent on following, and the other is intent on leading. That is why Lorien is and will always be more respected than BioWare. Lorien has learned not only from their mistakes, but also the mistakes of BioWare. They were completely willing to take a risk and cut against the grain that is the consumer meta, even though they weren't sure it would pay off in the end, because they were intent on raising the bar. After seeing the success of Baldur's Gate 3, I'm optimistic about the future of CRPGs and RPGs in general. I just hope that the cowards of the gaming industry like BioWare, who blindly follow the meta hoping to maximize profits, take notes, and make industry-leading games instead of industry-following games. So, yeah. That's the end.
But there's always someone bent on breaking the world.